It's been a couple months now since I got my very first platinum trophy, and ever since that moment, I've become addicted and I need more. Now, with 5 platinum trophies under my belt, I've decided to try something a little different. I wanted to platinum a Souls-like game. Now, before you get too ahead of yourself, being a complete Souls-like beginner, I wanted to try something that was maybe a little bit more forgiving. And that's when I found the game Another Crab's Treasure, a Souls-like adventure for more of a casual gamer. And I thought this would be a nice, easy platinum to get me off the mark. But boy, was I wrong. Our adventure begins as a humble little hermit crab called Krill, who is just trying to live his best life, when a very sus looking loan shark starts smacking me and claims that we have to pay some taxes or he will steal our shell. We try to pay using some of this heart kelp stuff, but unfortunately the loan shark tells us that we have to pay with trash, since trash is the new currency of the ocean. But since we don't have any trash to pay up, the loan shark steals our shell. We chase after the loan shark but bump into some other crabs. They are acting strange and start to attack me, and since we don't have a weapon, I had to run away. Running away, we find ourselves a nice rusty fork to help fight off these pesky crabs, before finding the first of many moon snail shells which are found all across the map. We can rest in them to restore health, and we respawn at them whenever we die. Once inside the moon snail shell, we can use any microplastics earned from slaying enemies to level up our character. The loan shark reappears and says instead of chasing him, we should actually talk to the Duchess, who is responsible for these taxes we have to pay. A random sea snail points us in the direction of the castle, but for some reason he turns on us. So we clap him. But the karma hit pretty quickly, because straight after clapping that poor little snail, I ran into this big guy called the Royal Shell Splitter, who teaches me a very valuable lesson in what to expect from a Souls-like game. So I recover my junk and quickly get out of there. And we head up to the castle gates, where a couple of guards deny us entry because we're naked. So now we gotta go find a shell we can wear. The guards point us in a direction where we might find a shell, but instead we find a vending machine filled with empty soda cans. So now, wearing one of these soda cans, we are attacked by the first story boss, Nephro, who wants to arrest us for stealing. And I get my ass whooped. Again. And again. And again. And a bunch more times before I realized that I should probably go and level up a few times before coming back and trying again. So I spent a bit of time slaying as many crabs and fish as I could find, earning enough microplastics to reach level 2 before trying again. It took a few more times, but I eventually killed Nephro, unlocking the first trophy, Captain of the Guard. Heading back to the castle gates, we get let inside and go to speak to the Duchess, and we strike a deal. If we can get her something shiny, she will return our shell and give us an extension on any taxes we owe.
And return to me with trinket in claw, and we can speak of delay.
Okay, thank you.
So, off on our new quest, we unlock a grappling hook, which we can now use to Spider-Man around the map. Using our new grappling hook, we head into a nearby cave where we find the mysterious moon snail in some sort of spirit form. Speaking to the moon snail, we learn the powers of umami, which gives each shell we find a special ability. We continue through the cave where we do a lot of parkour and a lot of enemies await. I kept underestimating the smaller enemies and I got my ass handed to me a few times. But eventually I made it to the end of the cave where the boss was waiting, the polluted platoon pathfinder. Finding this boss a fair bit easier, only dying 2 or 3 times, we defeat it and find a nice shiny pearl to give to the Duchess. We jump down into the Moonsnail's domain where we can come to upgrade our skill trees and unlock shell portation, the ability to fast travel between any Moonsnail shell we've found. We reach level 7 and fast travel back to the Duchess's castle where something seems a bit off. The guard out the front of the castle loses its mind and gets really angry and tries to kill me, which he does. But I return to the guard where I'm guessing he felt really bad for killing me, so he just stands there and lets me kill him this time. Nice guy. But everyone else throughout the castle is also losing their minds and turning hostile. Scaling the castle walls, I hit level 9 before making it to the inside of the castle where the Duchess also wants to kill me.
Our minds are clear as crystal now.
Which she does.
You're mine. Can't you see how worthless this all?
A few times.
Can't you see how worthless this all is?
And after she kills us for roughly the 10th time, we slay the Duchess and unlock our first adaptation, Royal Wave. A spell we can use with our umami powers. With the Duchess dead, the loan shark, who I'm starting to suspect is kind of a dick, was watching the whole thing, and since the Duchess is now dead, instead of giving our shell back, the shark wants to head into the main city and sell it instead. Arsehole. We try to cross a bridge that takes us into the main city, where we find another sane hermit crab called Firth. Firth tells us that the bridge to the city has collapsed, so we gotta find another way around. Going the long way around, we find our first stainless relic, which we can use to upgrade our fork. And making our way through the forest, finding a couple more shells, we meet a cool looking snail called Barblo, who teaches us about rolling. Looking like fun, I grab the tennis ball shell and roll all the way to my grave. So trying that again, we make it across the gap where we enter the city New Carcinia. That random hermit crab from before Firth somehow beat us here. And we get the next trophy in good claws for purchasing some shell insurance. Heading down into the lower level of the city, we find a hammerhead shark where we can upgrade our fork to level 2. And we find an urchin named Eric who doesn't let us hug him. When we overhear a shady little prawn called Prawnathan, who has opened up a pawn shop and just happens to be wearing our shell. So Prawnathan, looking sus as hell, pretends he brought the shell off some shark, so if I want it back, I have to pay for it. But before we could strike a deal, we are interrupted by an event called Trash Day.
Trash Day! It's Trash Day! Everyone get your baskets! Don't miss out!
Where a bunch of trash falls from the sky, and everyone grabs as much as they can.
Get your own trash, lump suckers!
A cereal box lands in the center of the city, seemingly with a map to some incredible treasure.
It's a message from the captain! This is part of a map!
But pieces of the map are missing.
Crab?
With everyone excited and wanting the treasure, some bigwig called Roland arrives and tells everyone that it's too dangerous out there, so he'll just go and find the treasure himself.
Need I remind you all how threatening the ocean is outside this reef?
But Prawnathan is having none of that and gives us a deal. If we manage to get the treasure, he'll swap it for our shell.
For real? You'd really do that?
You bet. A prawn never goes back on his promise.
Aw, yeah! I'm gonna find that treasure!
And we unlock the Hunt Begins trophy. So looking for the treasure, we head out into a location called the Sands Between, where if we stray off the designated path, a giant boss called Pagarus the Ravenous comes to deal with us. Many enemies later, and escaping Pagarus, we make it to the other side and run into a lobster called Titan, the last remaining guard from the Duchess's castle, who tells us about an infection that is polluting everyone's minds. Continuing onwards in search of the treasure map, we bump into Firth again, who also seems to be searching for the treasure. We find a couple new shells, and then get the You Fell Off trophy for falling to our death for the first time, which I totally got on purpose. We then start fighting the next boss, Diseased Lycanthrope, who starts spewing out mini disease looking crabs. But this boss doesn't prove to be overly difficult, only dying a couple times before managing to kill it, earning us our next trophy. Now, there is actually a setting in the game that lets you give yourself a gun. It's pretty much cheating, but we actually need to kill someone with that gun to earn the trophy, This Kills the Crab. Putting the gun away, we arrive at the next boss, Hikea, who has a very nice six-pack and a lethal pair of chopsticks. With nothing but a sushi roll on my back and my trusty fork, we go toe-to-toe with Hikea, and somehow manage to take him down on our first try, unlocking the Intimidation Crab Trophy. We get another stainless steel relic from the boss fight, and we also find the first piece of the treasure map. I head back to the city, attaching the missing map piece, which tells us our next destination, called CLAWsome Vale, where Roland's company Shellfish Corp is located. But to reach this place, we must head back through the sands between. Evading Pagaris once again, we arrive at CLAWsome Vale. Heading inside, Roland's right claw squid Inkerton ambushes us, but after a brief scuffle, Inkerton gets scared and swims away.
Not worth my time.
Fighting off some big fish in sandwich bags, we have to avoid all the gunk in the area that slowly poisons us. And I spent a very long time slaying many enemies, and dying many times, before jumping down into a cave where we find the next bosses, the Savage Sisters. Taking them down, I got the Savage Sisters trophy and learned the Bubble Bullet adaptation. I head back up top where we find the next piece of the treasure map. Back in the city, Conch deciphers the new map piece and tells us that Pagaris, the giant boss in the sands between, has the final piece of the map. So after leveling up, it's time to take on Pagaris. With a knife and fork of its own, Pagaris is an absolute tank of a thing, and it takes a long time to kill it. But we eventually emerge victorious, unlocking the Ravenous trophy and getting the final piece of the map. Conch then tells us that the treasure is just off the coast of CLAWsome Vale, and that all we need is a boat. But Roland the slimy weasel has other ideas, and steals the map to beat us to the treasure. Arriving at the docks, our friend Nema is there with a boat, but we have no electricity to power it up. Firth then says that if we can get inside the Shellfish Corp building, we should be able to find a battery to power the boat. Many corkscrew crabs later, we go and learn some more skills, including the ability to put other shells on our fork for extra damage. Making our way through the facility and slaying countless enemies, we find an overpowered item that makes us immune to electricity, and we make our way to the next boss. Firth, tagging along, wants no part in the fight and hangs back while I do all the work. This boss is an electric eel named Voltai, and since most of her attacks are electrical, we are actually immune thanks to that rubber band we grabbed earlier. Using all sorts of appliances like a hairdryer, a toaster, and other things, we take down Voltai and get the Accumulator trophy, and also unlocking the Electrocute adaptation. We head back to the boat and use our new power to get the boat up and running. Everyone from the city wants to tag along, and we set sail. Sailing to where the treasure is, we find Roland's boat, and we infiltrate the boat, falling right into Roland's trap.
Knew we were gonna show up, so where's all the resistance? It all really stinks of...
A trap? Inkerton, kill the city folk. Gladly. And as for you,
Separated from the others, Roland doesn't muck around and bashes the crap out of me.
you should have known your betters, kid.
But we defeat Roland and get our next trophy. The rest of the gang have stunned Inkerton, but Roland isn't done yet, making Krill angry, causing the boat to fall off the edge and into the abyss.
I'm sick of it! I'm gonna get that
Krill, wait!
treasure!
Waking up at the bottom of the abyss, we actually find the hidden treasure. But Firth, the greedy little crab, is super angry because, well, cash is kind of useless to crabs.
What's that?
It's nothing!
They need trash.
No glass, not even a single nugget of foam. Just this pile of damp paper.
So we walk off super sad and on the verge of giving up, when we start getting eaten by some little white crabs. Almost dying, but we are rescued by Nema. We rest up and Nema gives us a pep talk, so we reluctantly keep going. With everything so dark, we need to find and smack all these glow sticks to light up our way. Running into Conch, he tells us that he believes the real treasure is still down here somewhere, one that can make us all rich. Wanting to use a nearby Moonshell to get everyone to safety, it turns out to be a trap, and the Moonshell was actually another boss, Petrock the False Moon. We kill Petrock, and then Conch tells us about an ancient shell called the Perfect Whirl, a shell that grants the wearer some crazy powers, and that the old king of the ocean locked it away and it's deep in these ruins somewhere. We unlock the Snail Sanctum adaptation and then decide to team up with Conch to continue searching for the magical shell. While searching for the magical shell, we make it to the abyssal plains where these giant crabs with missile eyes start terrorizing me. But as fate would have it, we run into Roland and Inkerton again.
Here, do ye? Well, then what the shuck am I still paying you for? Matter
Fed up with Roland, Inkerton just pops him.
defeat a damn lobster. Good for nothing. I should have left you on the seabed where I found you, you little...
Before spotting me.
It's you.
Krill doesn't want to fight, but Inkerton doesn't really care. Managing to dodge most of Inkerton's range attacks, we defeat him, earning the Crab Hunter trophy.
Roland, you bastard. Seems I'm as worthless as you.
We then get the Way of the Hermit trophy for maxing out one of the skill trees. We find Conch again, this time standing on a secret elevator that apparently only hermit crabs can use. And we make our way down into the old ocean ruins. A new type of crab appears, this time having to destroy their armored shells before they start fighting naked. After what seemed like an eternity, scaling through the old ocean ruins and fighting more enemies than I could even count, we continue onwards up through the old ruins before eventually reaching a castle where Conch is waiting and tells us that he actually used to live here 30 years ago, which explains why he knows so much about this godlike shell. I hit level 50, and what awaits us in the next room is none other than the old king of the ocean, Kamsha. Wielding a brush, Kamsha doesn't really move from his starting spot, so it's pretty easy to avoid his attacks and chip away at his health. And get the trophy for defeating Kamsha. However, he isn't done yet and emerges naked from his shell. And this time it's serious. Spinning all over the place and throwing claws like there's no tomorrow, Kamsha Reborn is a much tougher fight and takes us a few goes to beat, but we eventually win the fight, getting the second trophy for beating Kamsha Reborn. And to celebrate this victory, like anyone would, we jump into a toilet. At the bottom of the toilet, we finally find it. The perfect whirl in all its glory.
They all told me it was just a legend. Those buffoons. It's only a matter of time before...
When out of nowhere, Conch is stabbed by a very possessed looking Chiton.
Oh my god! He's dead!
Realizing that Chiton is being controlled by some ghostly tentacle, just like everything else in the game, she tries to kill us. Summoning a bunch of undead crabs and shooting laser balls at us, we have to wait for her to come down to the ground before we can attack. We defeat the possessed Chiton, but the ghost tentacle then starts going crazy, shooting a bunch of balls, spikes, and laser beams at us. And we have to just dodge all the attacks while its health slowly drains, which isn't overly easy, but after a couple tries, we succeed, unlocking the Ocean's Agony trophy for defeating Prior. Upgrading the final 2 skill trees to max, we unlock the Way of the Predator trophy and the Way of the True Crab trophy. We head back to the Perfect Whirl where we get the endgame warning. We are able to come back afterwards to clean up the rest of the trophies, so I just continued with the story. Chiton is dying on the floor and we try to use the magical shell to save her.
Till the day this all
Oh, wait! That old guy was saying that shell has a lot of magic in it, right? I'll just put it on. Maybe...
When you would not believe what happened next.
Stay right there! I'll be right...
Whoa! What happened? I put on this cool looking shell and for some reason I feel super great now.
Firth, that little weasel, comes out of absolutely nowhere and puts on the Perfect Whirl. Firth refuses to save Chiton and beams away. We follow Firth up to Trash Island and try to reason with him, but he is drunk with his new power. Firth wants to cover the entire ocean in trash, so we must stop him. By this point, we are pretty powerful, but so is Firth with his new god powers, and it's an evenly matched battle. Firth gets me a couple of times, but we eventually get the upper hand and take him out. Then Firth goes full god mode. And we have to fight him a second time. And this time he is way more powerful, summoning whirlpools and teleporting all over the place, taking us out with ease. Multiple times. But we defeat God Mode Firth, equipping the God Shell ourselves and unlocking the Avatar of Waste trophy. After equipping the God Shell, we super punch the crap out of Firth with so much power it shatters the shell. Landing back at New Carcinia, trash is absolutely everywhere, and Firth is somehow still alive.
Hey pal, no hard feelings, right?
But not for long. Wandering through the city, we then find Prawnathan, who, would you believe it, is still refusing to give our shell back. So we do what we should have done from the start. and smack the crap out of him. Finally getting our home shell back and unlocking the finishing what I started trophy. And it's at this point I can go out and get any remaining trophies needed to get the platinum trophy. First up, I went around getting all the trophies for all the optional bosses that I missed, which include the very first boss that whooped my ass, the Royal Shell Splitter. Not so tough now, are you, buddy? A boss called the Curdled Carbonara Connoisseur. Grovekeeper Topoda, who after we fight realize we're on the same side.
Seems like I'm still out of practice.
And Topoda teaches us a new adaptation called Mantis Punch. And finally, we take on the Scuttling Sludge Steamroller. With all the bosses defeated, I turn my attention to getting the final 2 adaptations. We get one for trying so hard to give poor Eric a hug, he caves and gives us the Urchin Toss adaptation. We then have to make our way through the sands between to find the Bobbit Trap adaptation, unlocking us the well-adapted trophy for unlocking all adaptations. Next up, it's time to find all the remaining stainless relics so I can fully upgrade my fork, getting the Make It Shine trophy. All that's left now is to find all of the remaining shells we haven't found yet. Heading back to the old ocean ruins, we have to parkour our way through a difficult course to find the Knight's Helmet, a Souls-like Easter egg, and unlock the Shells-like trophy. And then we find the final 3 shells to unlock the Shell Seeker trophy, the last trophy we needed to unlock the fully customized platinum trophy for another Crab's Treasure. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and let me know down in the comments below what games you would like me to platinum next.